Good evening, and welcome to the November 2023 Brooklyn Borough Board meeting. I am Gregory Lewis, counsel to the Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso, chairing this meeting according to a September 2022 order, and I'm joined by my colleagues of the Office of Brooklyn Borough President, Carol Ann Church to my right, and Jesus Marshall on the cameras. This meeting is being recorded to comply with the Open Meetings Law, and we will begin by asking my colleague, and I'm asking my colleague, Ms. Church, to call the roll.
Good evening. Community Board 1, David Heimlich. Community Board 2. Community Board 3. Thank you. Community Board 4. Thank you. Community Board 5. Ms. Lohman. Community Board 6. Community Board 7. Community Board 8. Community Board 9. Thank you. Community Board 10.
Sandy Vallis, Vice Chair filling in for Chair Jane Capitulakis.
Thank you. Community Board 11. Thank you. Community Board 12. Community Board 13. They actually sent apologies. Community Board 14. Thank you. Community Board 15. Thank you. Community Board 16. Community Board 17. Thank you. Community Board 18. Thank you. Council members. 33 Wrestlers. 34 Gutierrez. 35 Hudson. 36 Osei. 37 Nurse. Thank you. 38 Aviles. Thank you. 39 Hanif. Thank you. 40 Joseph. 41 Millie. Thank you. 42 Barron. 43 Brannon. 44 Yeager. 45 Louis. 46 Narcisse. 47 Kagan. Thank you. 48 Vernikov. Thank you, and the Borough President's office is here. Mm-hmm. 19, 18, 26, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18.
There being 18 members present, there is a quorum. There being a quorum, we'll proceed to the action items. The first matter circulated to the membership was a copy of the proposed agenda for this meeting. Did any member not receive a copy of the proposed agenda? Please, sorry. And with sorry, may I switch office, please?
Community Board 6, I think I just missed.
Okay, perfect. You did not receive a copy of the agenda.
Name?
Mark Torrance.
Thank you.
Mr. Torrance, would you give us your email, please?
I can just see.
Oh, sorry, do you have the program? Has any other member not received a copy of the proposed agenda for this evening? Does any member have an objection to adopting the agenda, the proposed agenda for this evening? Hearing no objection, the proposed agenda circulated with the email for the notice of this meeting is adopted as the agenda. The email circulating the proposed agenda also included proposed minutes of the October 3rd, 2023 Brooklyn Borough Board meeting. Did any member not receive a copy of the proposed minutes of the October 2023 Brooklyn Borough Board meeting? Hearing no member having failed to receive a copy of those minutes, now put it to membership whether to adopt the proposed minutes of the October 2023 Brooklyn Borough Board meeting as the minutes, the official minutes of that meeting. Is there any objection? Is there an objection? Hearing no objections, the October 2023, the proposed minutes are hereby adopted as the official minutes of the October 2023 Brooklyn Borough Board meeting. I note as a point of order, the October 2023 Brooklyn Board meeting had proposed minutes for September as well as a special meeting. Those not having been circulated to the membership, their adoption will be reserved for a future meeting. Moving on now to the next agenda item, to the agenda as adopted, that is updates from Brooklyn Borough Hall. And there are 4 matters that we wish to provide updates on. The first, the comprehensive plan for Brooklyn was released last month. The Brooklyn Borough President will begin to use the plan immediately as a guiding document for all projects that come up for public review. Borough President Reynoso is also committed to ongoing engagement and outreach to see that as many Brooklynites as possible are aware of the plan. The Brooklyn Borough President's Office will continually collect and review feedback from the public at testimony@brooklynbp.nyc.gov. Once again, that's testimony@brooklynbp.nyc.gov. Based on receiving new public comments, as new research or data sets are released, and as legislation is passed, the Borough President has committed to reviewing the plan and issuing updates on a yearly basis, as well as taking on special projects and work resulting from the recommendations. The plan is available on the website of the Office of Brooklyn Borough President, brooklynbp.nyc.gov/BK-BP-initiatives/. Second announcement is that applications for joining community boards open on November 15th. All members with expiring terms will receive a notification advising them of the open application period. The third update is that there is an upcoming public hearing and vote on the City of Yes by the Borough Board relating to the citywide text amendment. This is City of Yes for Economic Opportunity. It's different to the City of Yes matter that was previously considered and voted by the Brooklyn Borough Board. To describe this, the goal is to make zoning flexible to allow for different businesses that serve neighborhoods. It's a massive proposed text amendment, 664 pages, and it's divided into 18 sections. City Planning, the Department of City Planning, will begin presenting to community boards. So we ask that you please set a time to appropriately discuss the section that will impact your communities. So far, only 3 boards have scheduled a presentation with the Department of City Planning. We ask that community boards reach out or direct their district managers to get this item on the agenda. Just to clear that point up, the Department of City Planning will be making presentations, I believe, at the request of community boards. So please make that request. Finally, the Civic Engagement Commission has launched the second year of the New York City citywide participatory budgeting process. the people's money. To kick off Phase 1, partners across the city are holding idea generation sessions to find out how residents want to spend part of the city budget. Everyone 11 years old or older can submit ideas or an idea to be considered for their borough's ballot. Ideas can be submitted at participate.nyc.gov. Can also apply to be on our borough assembly committees, which consist of residents of each borough who meet in January and evaluate all the ideas to decide what goes on the ballots. For more information, to submit an idea or to apply to be an assembly member, go to, there's a link that we will include in the notes for this meeting. I don't have a hypertext here. I just have a link, so I don't have a URL, I should say. I only have a link. So we'll distribute the link for where you can submit an assembly member application. That concludes the updates from Brooklyn Borough Hall, and that brings us to any unfinished business. In checking the Chairperson Camacho, Community Board 4, just to be clear, is that a request that we reach out to DCP to make sure that they are better responding to Community Board 4's request for them to attend the meeting to discuss City of Yes? Yep, we'll take care of that. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure. Understood. We will follow up with them to make sure that they are cooperating with Community Board 4 on dates that request. Chairperson Baptiste, Community Board 9. Chairperson, we'll reserve that for other business on the agenda item. Are there any other questions about the, or requests related to the Brooklyn Borough Hall updates? Yes, Chairperson Daly, Community Board 17. I can't tell from here whether that's among the three, but certainly consistent with what Chairperson Camacho, Community Board 4 says, if there's some problem getting the date.
Like I said, I don't know if there's a problem with me working. They wanted to come last month and the agenda was full. So I told them to come this November.
Right.
So I just wanted to double check if you can, so I knew that.
We'll check and report back later on in the meeting if we get an update. Yes, Chairperson Lohman, Community Board 5. Is there any objection to amending the October 2023 minutes adopted tonight to correct the spelling of Chairperson Lohman's name to Lowman, to correct that. Is there any objection to that amendment to the minutes? Hearing no objection, the October 2023 minutes or the minutes of the October 2020 Brooklyn Borough Board meeting are so amended. Continuing on with the agenda, unfinished business, there is none from that prior meeting. And since, as I mentioned before, the minutes for September and the special meeting were not approved, we won't bring back up any unfinished business from that moment. We'll reserve that for a future meeting, which brings us to the next agenda item of communication and reports, and that is a public hearing. It is to review a proposal submitted by the Prospect Park Alliance to reconstruct the boathouse, an early 1900s Helmy, Hudswell, and Huberty structure on the east bank of Lullwater in Prospect Park. The reconstruction will include repair of glaze spalls, replacement of lead joint covers at upward-facing joints, resettling displaced terracotta units, and repointing mortar to match historical intent. The interior flooring will be restored through composite patching. Conduits at the cornice will be reset to allow adequate water drainage. The stone baluster at the dock terrace will be stabilized. A new HVAC system will also be installed. Presenting on this is David Yum, a senior architect from Prospect Park Alliance. Mr. Young, if you will take the podium. Yes, please.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for having me this evening. I'm going to run through a presentation on our proposed reconstruction of the boathouse in Prospect Park. As just summarized, we are primarily doing an exterior restoration of the white terracotta tile at the exterior of the building, which is beginning to deteriorate and also get a lot of spalling, which is just the marking from weather and from uncontrolled water runoff. On the interior, there is historic glazed tile, both on the walls and flooring, and especially on the flooring. Some of these broken tiles are a tripping hazard, so we'd really like to address that as well. A number of the electrical circuits that were done over the decades were done in a haphazard way, and some of that is causing some of the spalling on the exterior. Also, because it was done in this incremental haphazard way, we feel like repairing and upgrading some of that rough electrical work will better serve the interior, especially as events take place there, and lessen the number of fuse shortages that sometimes occur. Oops, sorry. So these are just maps to help us locate the actual boathouse, so from Brooklyn to Prospect Park, and it's really on the eastern side, more on the southern quadrant, right by Lullwater Lake. Whoops. And here is a plan of the boathouse. Right in the middle is Lullwater Pond. These are historic photos of the boathouse and from the bridge. So I hope these are large enough. Here we're trying to just show some of the damage to the terracotta and the spalling staining. And I don't know if it's clear enough, but on the cornice, some of those terracotta cornices are actually beginning to fatigue and lower. And so we'd really like to address it now before it gets much worse. Here we can see some of the repairs that we're going to do in the flooring, more of the cornice, and the baluster over time. The foundations of the baluster near the pond beginning to fade a little bit, and so that's what causes some of the separation, the cracking up at the top. The boathouse is really a favorite venue for different events, especially weddings and different parties, and it's never had adequate air conditioning, so we'd like to provide modern air conditioning, more energy efficient air conditioning for some of those events, especially in the summer. And the units themselves, we'll take a look at more pictures, are going to be up on those first floor terraces, and because the stone baluster is on top, they're nearly invisible. So these are drawings of the building, and it's very, I don't know if it's apparent, but you can see the very small orange triangles. That is the extent that you'll see those new units. And let me keep going, if we didn't make those orange, they'd be almost impossible to find. So those are the actual units, very standard. Here we did the mock-ups, and we'll see more photos with the orange winter fencing. We originally did these in brown, big brown corrugated paper boxes. And when we first brought landmarks to see them from the ground, they simply couldn't see it. And so we had to go back and make them in orange. Whoops. And so here, you're looking at photos of the units with that orange mesh, and it's very difficult to see them at all. I mean, I've looked at these photos many times, and it's very hard. So the big case I'm trying to make here is that we're providing modern air conditioning, but we're making very, very little impact to the historic look of the boathouse. So these trees, the trees that are near the southern edge of the boathouse are largely up for most of the season. And here we can see, it's very hard to see the units. I'm focusing on this because the landmarks had us focus really on how much do we see these new air conditioning units. I think, again, from any public view, you're looking more at the photo that we see from across the river. You need a binocular or telescopic lens to get the image on the circle on the right, and there, again, you can just see a little bit of the condensing unit, which will be tan and gray. So once it's the actual colors, it'll be almost impossible to see. Whoops. Oh. Is that the last slide on the? I don't think it is. Oh, it is. Okay. All right. Thank you. And that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Young. Questions from the Borough Board? Ms. Campbell.
And is there a specific area? Oh, do you mean the roof, the interior, or the dock? Okay, yeah. So presently we're not encountering any drainage issues on the roof or terrace. We're not seeing any significant leaking or whatnot on the interior. The dock, over time, is beginning to sag and deteriorate because of the way the piers and the way the piers were built to support the dock. I think over 20 years ago there was a restoration to improve it, and so this past month we saw flooding at that area, and we saw that the current dock foundations can be improved, but they are not at this moment other than the baluster that I pointed out, they're not a public safety issue. And at this moment, in terms of prioritizing restoration, we don't have the current funding to address the dock. We feel that addressing the terracotta is actually a more important issue, because if we're able to address it now, it's one of those things where we're addressing it before it becomes an even more expensive issue. Yes? Yeah, so we're going to, and is the question revolving around the use of the building? Oh, after it's replaced. Yeah, yeah. So, so the terracotta units that we're actually going to replace in kind as new units, they should last as long as the building has been to this point, so 100 years. Of course, I can't foresee climate change and all of that, but 100 years, yeah. Yeah. So for this scope of work, well, let me say, when we do the terracotta repairs, even though we'll have scaffolding on the outside of the building, it doesn't mean that the interior cannot be used for that entire time. So we'll probably have scaffolding on the outside of the building 6 to 8 months, but events could still occur. In terms of the interior repairs to the floor, we would probably close the building for about 4 to 5 months.
Any other questions? Yes.
Just out of curiosity, in terms of visibility, like were mini splits ever considered?
Those are mini splits. Yes.
What's your timeline for this work? Like, when would you anticipate it starting and completing?
So once we have approval, if the board approves this project, we then go to landmarks to get approval. And after landmarks, and forgive me if I'm repeating a process that many of you already know, after we go to landmarks, we have to get Department of Buildings approval. And after we get the Department of Buildings approval, we can actually go through the city procurement process, which is usually 1 year. This process is slightly different because we're using state grants, but the procurement is probably a similar period.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Young.
Thank you.
As the agenda notes, this is an action requiring a vote of certain members of the community board because it would affect more than one community district, being that Prospect Park borders 5. So I want to state, under these circumstances where there is the majority attendance is by the community boards, I want to state a conclusion on the voting procedures. The charter says that where there's an action that only some members are entitled to take, we first need a majority of all those entitled to vote. That counts as the quorum for that matter. So Community Board 6, 7, 8, 9, 14, plus all of the council members are entitled to vote. We see that there are 7 council members, and that members of 6, 8, 9, and 14 are here. That makes it 11 out of the 21 individuals who would be entitled to vote on this. That is a quorum. Now, what that means is, for this to carry, 6 need to be vote in favor for it to carry. Once again, I want to state that conclusion just for the precedential value. This is a matter that only some members are entitled to vote on, only those that are affected. The affected community boards are 6, 7, 8, 9, and 14, as well as all the council members are permitted to vote on this. That is 21 people who could vote on this. We need a majority of those 21 on this matter. That would be 11. We have 11. 7 council members or their representatives are present, as well as 4 of the 5 affected community boards. A majority of a quorum is needed to make it the action of the board. That would be 6. So when I ask Ms. Church to call the roll, it'll be of 6, 7, 8, 9, 14, plus the council members, and a vote of at least 6 of those individuals will be required for this to pass. Any other questions about those procedures I felt I wanted to walk through? Okay, Ms. Church, call that roll.
Thank you. Starting with the community boards. Community Board 6. Community Board 7. No representation. Community Board 8.
Yes.
Community Board 9. Thank you. Community Board 14. Thank you. And now we go to the council members. Just in case anyone walked in the room after the roll, I'll call all the members. 33, Ressler. 34, Gutierrez. 35, Hudson. 36, Osei. 37, Nurse. 38, thank you. 39, thank you. 40. 41.
Sure.
Thank you. 42, Barron. 43, Brannan. 44, Yeager. 45, Blue. 46, Narcisse. 47, Kagan. 48, Bernikoff.
Yes.
Thank you. We had no abstentions, no noes.
The matter passes, the measure passes by a vote of 11 yes, 0 no, 0 abstention. It passes unanimously. The Brooklyn Borough President's Office, in the custom of chairing, did not vote, but we'll record this as being unanimous nonetheless. That moves us on to the next agenda item, another communication or report, a presentation. A presentation by New Yorkers for Parks, and the campaign for 1% of New York City parks. It's going to be done by Daniel Abram, the project manager, research and policy. Mr. Abram, take the podium, or whatever you prefer.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Daniel Abram. I am the project manager of research and policy at New Yorkers for Parks. We are a small organization. You're looking at 25% of the organization right now. And we have been around for about 100 years in a lot of different ways, shapes, and forms. Previously the Parks Council, but most recently New Yorkers for Parks. Tonight I'm going to talk to you all about how we do our work, what our work is, and what we are seeking from all of the community boards across New York City and also Brooklyn, of course. So we are the only independent citywide advocates for quality parks and open spaces in New York. We were established over 100 years ago. We champion equitable development, distribution, maintenance, and open spaces across New York City. We do our work through organizational partnerships, advocacy, and research. We founded the Playfair Coalition with a few other co-founders, the New York League of Conservation Voters, DC 37, the Parks Workers Union, and we're currently supported by New York City Council Parks Chair Shekhar Krishnan, Councilmember Shekhar Krishnan. And the Playfair Coalition is made up of 400 plus groups, volunteer groups, friends of groups, alliances that support our work and also call out issues across parks across New York City. And that's, no one's meant to read that. That's all of our Playfair Coalition members. I mentioned our research as part of our work. We, earlier this year, produced the 1% for Parks Impact Report, which I will get into what 1% really means and where that number comes from. And we also do our open space profiles. This is Brooklyn 17, actually. You can, what the open space profile is meant to do is to show the amount of open space available to the community. Brooklyn 17 actually is in somewhat dire straits as far as the available parkland. I believe it's 0.1 acre for every 1,000 residents in the district. But I just wanted to highlight that one there. Ooh. So what is 1%? We are asking the mayor, or have been asking the mayor for the last 20 years, of whoever the mayor is at the time, including this one, for 1% of the city budget for the Parks Department. And when I say 1%, I'm speaking specifically about the maintenance and operations budget. So this is funding that would go towards gardeners, PEP officers, maintenance workers, people opening and closing bathrooms, cleaning bathrooms, picking up trash in parks as well. Parks takes care of all of the trash, sanitation does not. And so the Parks Department has a very heavy lift. There are 30,000 acres of parkland in New York City. There are 1,700 park sites in New York City as well. 1%, and how we get that number, or what has happened in the past, or really what has not happened in the past. Since 1970 was the last time the Parks Department received more than 1% of the city budget, at 1.4%. Since 1978, the Parks Department has been cut to between 0.5 and 0.6% of the city budget, and has sat between 0.5 and 0.6% since then. Today, we are at 0.6% of the city budget. And Parks has not been prioritized in the same way as other frontline agencies. When I say frontline agencies, I think about agencies that when their jobs are not funded or their work is not being done, you go outside and you feel it. Parks is definitely a frontline agency. It's predominantly frontline staff that are doing the work. And so since 1980, every frontline agency has grown by at least 127%, which is the same amount as the expense budget. New York City's expense budget has grown since 1980, except for the Parks Department. The Parks Department has only grown 72% since 1980. New York City also spends less on parks than other major cities. You can see us there at the bottom of the list. Minneapolis spends more than us, despite having 6 times less acreage. At 5.3%, Minneapolis is also a city that has a lot of single-family housing. So a lot of these people presumably have private backyards. For New Yorkers, 8.5 million New Yorkers, parks are our backyards, and we're not allocating 1% at least to the 30,000 acres of parkland available to us. This neglect of the Parks Department has translated directly to the lack of staffing in the Parks Department. So since 1976, the city has grown by about 1 million people. We're projected to be 8.7 million people in 2024, and the number of parks workers has decreased by 1,000. That 8,043 number there actually is representative of all park staff, including seasonal workers. Half of those are seasonal workers. So in reality, there are 4,000 permanent full-time workers that work for the Parks Department year-round. So for a random, like we had recently, a random 75-degree day when it should be cold and there are no seasonal workers and parks get a lot of use, there's no one in the park to clean up after everyone that has been there. And we will likely see more of those warm days going forward. Another perspective here, New York City parks have one gardener for every 114 acres of parkland. San Francisco and Chicago have one gardener for every 18 acres. If you've ever been a gardener, you know that 1 acre is more than enough to care for. I don't know how one gardener could take care of 114 acres of parkland. And like I mentioned, the neglect in funding has had a direct impact on staffing. Rec center funding in 1978, we saw about $56 million adjusted for inflation, the equivalent of $56 million. And in 2022, we were spending $34 million on on rec center funding. Also, you can see that rec center staffing has fallen by about half since 1978 as well, from 760 to 438. And so when the city prioritizes different, like I mentioned before, frontline agencies, excuse me, it goes into its pockets to find the money. So NYPD overtime in 2022 was at $670 million. The Parks Department, which outpaced the entire Parks Department budget at $618 million. I want to point out that the overtime spending is different from what is budgeted for from the executive budget from the mayor's office. The overtime spending is spending that is essentially a bill from an agency. So the city did have to go into its pockets to find this money. We are essentially asking for the change in the city's couch at this point to get to 1%, which would be about $340 million. The current state of parks, we put out a survey at the beginning of this year to some of our park stewards, some of our friends of groups and volunteer groups, and found that 85% of park stewards recorded an increase in usership in the last 3 years. 70% of park stewards recorded an increase in usership outside of the traditional busy season between May and August. 53% of park stewards said visitors expressed safety concerns about their park. 29% stated that there are, and so the last two data points here are from the January 2023 preliminary mayor's management report. There has been one that has come out since September. I've not yet updated that data here, but in January, in the first 4 months of this year, 29% increase in crimes against persons in parks and 27% increase in crimes against property in parks in the first 4 months of this year. And so what would 1% mean for New York City? It would mean a 21st century park system that meets New Yorkers' needs, clean and well-maintained parks throughout the year, safe parks with staff building relationships with community members, quick repairs avoiding longer turnaround times. The Parks Department prefers a fixed post model where there are staff in the park of a park of a certain acreage. Right now they use a mobile maintenance model, meaning that if there is a broken park bench and a maintenance crew is not able to get to it on that day, it can be sometimes a week or two before it's addressed. With a fixed post model, there's someone in the park every single day seeing a broken bench and fixing it that week, at least. So quick repairs as well, and then comprehensive access to the 10,000 acres of natural areas and trails included in the 30,000 acres of parkland. Protected vulnerable wetlands and amid a changing climate, cleaner air and heat relief provided by a protected urban forest, faster responses to 311, service requests for trees, free cultural and recreation programming for New Yorkers of all ages, and improved safety and conditions for workers. There are also very clear measurable benefits of parks. There are public health benefits, environmental benefits, and economic benefits. I won't get into every single one, but you can see here. And all of that said, the mayor has supported 1% for parks, both on the campaign trail and while in office. It is just not something that has yet been done. And so we are doing this campaign as a hope to hold his feet to the fire for his promise. We also have 44 council members in support of 1%. No council members are opposed. And we are currently in the process of getting letters of support from different community boards. You may have been reached out by myself or another member of my organization. And so we have about 13 letters so far. So we have Brooklyn 1, Brooklyn 6, Brooklyn 9, Brooklyn 10, and Brooklyn 15. We have reached out, I believe, to all community boards seeking to present to your parks committees. And what we are seeking is a letter of support. We do also have 12,000 petition signatures and growing, so 12,000 New Yorkers saying we need 1% of the city's budget for our parks. And so how your community board can support, if you haven't already, provide a letter of support. We're happy to present our 1% for Parks presentation to the Parks Committee if necessary, or to the full board. And we are seeking letters of support not for our organization, but for 1% of the city budget for the Parks Department. Sign and share our petition, which I'm happy to share with you all after this as well. And then also attend rallies that we hold at City Hall Park. And yeah, that's pretty much it. 1% for parks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abram. Questions from the Brooklyn Borough Board? We'll begin with Chairperson Camacho and then work my way around the room. Community Board 4.
Our mayor doesn't seem to see that the parks have grown. I don't know where you see that happening from then to now. My concern is these parks aren't well taken care of in regards to maintenance and security. And also, with the parks, some of the parks being utilized as dog parks that are basal fields. That people have dogs now and get them home. The funding to be created into a playing field for our youth and our kids in our school. It needs to be green. We need to see green. We don't need to see. I was a landscape. I worked in green in Somerset. You see how that green with it?
Yeah.
25th to 50. I worked there from 83 to 95. So, money.
He's not wrong. It's money.
Cutting grass, people maintaining, people fertilizing, seeding, cleaning and maintaining. Not urine, dog feces, because it doesn't work. Security, is security gonna be part of that? Because we have, I think, 3 or 4 of those for the whole borough. And
Yes.
we need to make sure that security is part of that. 1%, I'm someone here in Crosby, because at the nighttime, there's people you meet them when they're not supposed to. You would be supposed to have it covered in that. You know what I'm saying? We don't mind the people involved, but that is supposed to be covered in that. And the pavement is supposed to be used as a pavement, not as a football stadium or soccer.
Right.
Because you mess up the grass.
Right.
Kids can't play in Crosby at all. Because I know Tony, you know, I find it kind of strange that Queens have a closed off fence. If you go to certain places, and I take pictures of Queens, the grass is green, nice and clean and cut off, and the kids can use their field. So, why can't
So as far as security, there are, I believe, 400 line items budgeted for PEP officers. There are about 300. They work in pairs. So at any given time, for 1,700 parks and 30,000 acres of parkland, there are only 150 PEP officers in pairs. And that doesn't account for, sick days, time off. So at any given time, at most, there are 150 pairs of PEP officers surveying parkland, which is obviously not enough. 1% of the city's budget would go towards hiring more PEP officers and hiring more frontline staff.
Chairperson Loman of Community Board 5, followed by Chairperson Ian, Community Board 18.
I can share it. Can I share it with you, Carol Ann? And okay, yeah, I'll share it with you all. No problem.
Chairperson Ian, Community Board 18.
Good. How are you? Sure. So the Bronx, yeah, has two of the largest parks in New York City, Pelham Bay Park and Van Cortlandt Park. Yeah, and then that doesn't include all of the other pocket parks or other parks of large acreage. Yeah, so surprising or not, it is the Bronx. I believe so, yes. I could also be wrong. Yeah.
Chairperson Baptiste, Community Board 9.
Yes, first of all, thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to confirm something. So you said part of the 1% would actually go for tree maintenance as well for everyone?
Yes, tree and stump removal.
And I want to just stress that that's something very important because I know that that's been a major issue in terms of the maintenance of trees that not being maintained.
Right.
I believe the tree schedule sometimes can take years before they come back to the neighborhood. So I think it's critical, especially we've had calls before to add more greenery and more trees, but it's definitely important that we have the resources to support that.
Right. Thank you.
Any more questions for Ms. Lamont?
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as bathrooms go, the 1% absolutely is going towards someone being in the park to both open and close bathrooms as well as maintain them and make sure that they're a pleasant place to be. Part of our 5-point plan for park equity is streamlining the capital process. And so if anyone has ever tried to build a bathroom in a park, you know that it can take up to 5 years and millions of dollars. And so that is a separate part of the work that we do, but it is also absolutely something that we have discussed. Right. So we are, like I mentioned, we have obviously the mayor's support, but what does that mean? And we have the council members' support, the speaker's support. We are, like I said, seeking letters from all 59 community boards in support and hoping to get letters from all of the borough presidents as well. If it is at this point an issue of political will. And so, and I also mentioned it's the change in the city's couch. It's $340 million in the scale of the budget. That's not very much. And it is also something that would make it enjoyable for everyone from parks of all sizes, not just our most premier parks that have conservancies and alliances that partner with the Parks Department to take care of their spaces. Not every community has that privilege of being able to have an alliance or a conservancy that has either the capital or the time capital to take care of their parks in the same way that I think Central Park is the only park that has its own private staff. Every other park relies on Parks Department staff in some capacity, whether they have excuse me, whether they have a alliance or a conservancy or a Friends of group or not.
Ms. Thompson?
We work pretty close, yeah. Our executive director has a great relationship with Sue Donahue, the Parks Commissioner, and I mean, we are often meeting with the CFO, David Stark, of the Parks Department as well. The Parks Department is in we are kind of the mouthpiece for the Parks Department. They are a little bit in a political situation where they can't come out and say, we need this funding. That's our job.
If I can follow up on that with the Borough President's question. When you say you're the mouthpiece, is it a relationship contractual, sort of like the Prospect Park Alliance and the Parks
No.
Department, or sort of informally?
No. This is a campaign that's been going on for the last 20 years. We are independent of the Parks Department. We are not contracted with the Parks Department. We just work on behalf of the Parks Department. It's really on behalf of New Yorkers in a way, because we would like to see all parks and open space be quality for all New Yorkers, regardless of what they have access to.
Chairperson Witherspoon, CB8, followed by, I believe, First Vice Chair Vilas.
Good evening, and thanks for your presentation. You mentioned that there were 4,000 part-time workers.
So yeah, there are 4,000 seasonal workers and 4,000, about 4,000 seasonal workers and 4,000 full-time year-round workers.
So the seasonal are just that, they don't get any benefits at all?
Do they not get any benefits? I'm actually unsure of that off the top of my head. I'm not sure, to be honest. I believe that they may, but I don't think their benefits are not as robust as the full-time workers, for sure.
Would you be able to get those stats?
Sure. Yeah, I can share that with you all.
First Vice Chair Vilas.
Thank you for your presentation. Parks is very important, and we all know the importance of taking care of them. The only thing that makes me worry, and when was the last time that your group spoke with the mayor about this?
That we spoke with the mayor about this? I'm not sure.
Some of your presentation was from January. Has the position of the city become worse due to budget constraints, because now the migrants coming in, the city has to house these migrants? I know the city's been going to the state's been going to the government, nobody's come back with money for that.
Right.
And has that now complicated City Hall in giving us money, or attempting to give us more money for the parks?
Sure, I would say it likely has complicated. I can't say for sure yes or no, but what I will say is that even with this, we have asylum seekers coming into the city, parks have been the first place that they have gone. And during COVID, parks were the first place everyone went. And so parks have continued to be the backbone of our city, but we have not treated it that way. And so,
Parks are important, but they're treated as something that's way down the list.
right, exactly. Like I mentioned the stat from before where parks has only grown 72% since 1980. Every other agency has grown by at least 127%. And so as far as priorities go with the city and with the mayor, I can't say for sure. I haven't personally spoken to the mayor or spoken to the mayor's office about this. But this is also a campaign promise he's made. Not just a campaign promise, but a promise that he's made while in office. It's something that he says he understands is important. And looking at it as a holistic issue, looking at parks and their economic benefit, their public health benefit, investing in these parks is something that it shouldn't be seen as a short-sighted investment. It's a very long-term investment. And again, 1% is just to get us to a standard of a state of good repair. It's the bare minimum. And so, as I've said a couple of times already, change in the city's couch. It's pennies in the scale of the budget.
I'm just afraid that the process has become more of an uphill battle now.
It definitely has become an uphill battle, and that's why we're looking for community board support as well. Very explicit support from community boards saying we need 1% of the city's budget. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Chairperson Camacho, CB4.
You're gonna get, every time someone does a bill, next they'll throw a bone in there, think everything is okay. So eventually you're gonna get it.
Eventually, yeah.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Abram? Hearing none, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you, everyone.
Moving along with the agenda, updates from Brooklyn Borough Board members. Are there any updates that Brooklyn Borough Board members wish to share with the membership? Yes, Chairperson Lohman. Ms. Lemon, would you pause for a moment? Actually, would you use the podium, please, so we can have this on? And we'll ask that all members share at the podium, just so we can include this in the recording.
Good evening. I just wanted to share that at Community Board 5, last meeting in October, we had someone representing the Borough President's office, and we voted off 2 members of the board that was delinquent in absenteeism. They weren't coming to committee meetings, and we changed our bylaws to, I guess you could say, to adopt people that are delinquent and not coming, just to make room so that we can have people to do the work of the community. So I just wanted to share that with the board.
Thank you very much, Chairperson Lohman. Are there any other updates from membership? Mr. Cerna? No, not yet. The other business is the next agenda item. These are for updates. Yes, Chairperson Baptiste, Community Board 9.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to share that this past weekend, Community Board 9 was proud to partner with a veterans organization to have a Veterans Day parade on Eastern Parkway. I think it's very important. It's one of the things that we're working on in terms of establishing veterans committees on community boards so that we can address and make sure that they have access and the recognition they deserve. Additionally, I also want to share with the Borough Board that CB9 is partnering with Assemblymember Brian Cunningham on Sunday the 5th for a town hall on the Vital Brooklyn initiative. So this is something that there's about 11 different projects that are happening in terms of housing, where they're going to be building housing along with supportive, programs for supportive housing for people who are homeless or formerly homeless to give them housing as well. It's been a point of contention in the district, so we are inviting everyone to come out who has any ideas or wants to speak about that as well. That information is going to be held at the Toussaint Louverture School on Empire Boulevard on September the 5th at 3 p.m.
September the 5th?
September the 5th, Sunday the 5th. I'm sorry, November the 5th. You missed it already. It was great.
Chairperson Baptiste, there's a request that you repeat it one more time.
Sure, hold on one second. So it's going to be a town hall on Vital Brooklyn. It's going to be at the Toussaint Louverture School. It's on Empire Boulevard, and I believe it's Schenectady. I'll try and get that info. I'll confirm the information, but it's going to be on Sunday, November 5th at 3 p.m. So this Sunday coming up, 3 p.m. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Chairperson. Any other member updates? In the vein of Chairperson Witherspoon. No problem.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to mention that, the cannabis applications, we've received a bunch. I don't know how everyone else, what you're actually receiving, but we've had a lot. And it still seems to be a little confusing. It's ever changing, some of the rules. And I just wanted to just bring that to the attention of everyone. I don't know if that's an experience that any of you are experiencing, but it is what we are experiencing. And it just seems there's a lot of different things that are happening where you have applicants that the same applicant can apply requesting different locations. And we don't quite know how to deal with that, So I don't know if there's some light that any of you can shed in this process, but that is what we have been experiencing. And we're concerned of the many illegal shops that have opened. I think that there's so many of them, and I don't really understand or know how the state is going to deal with all of these places that have opened. Because from what I'm understanding, it's really no big deal in terms of receiving fines. They're perfectly fine with just paying those fines. If they shut them down, they can set up someplace else. So I just want to share that experience that we are having with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson Camacho, Community Board 4.
I know that we have gotten 10 applicants, and we were a little confused ourselves. I know that it's rough because they say the 500-foot rule for something, the 200-foot rule for something, 70 hours a week, 10 hours a day. It's pretty good. It's not supposed to be 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. It's not supposed to be 24 hours. So I don't know how we in the community and youth boards can create, like you would do the liquor license, and create hours of operations that benefits according to you guys when they open and they close, because I was told that we can't say no because they're getting the license regardless. What we can say no to is the location. So you're right, they are bidding 2 or 3 people for the same location. So we can say, we can interview this one, and he might not be the one we really want, but we can't say that we don't want him because it's the location we're voting on, not the individual that has the permit that requires to get it. So now we're back to square one, where I see all these people from outside of the community coming in here and coming to the boards and sitting down. We had one young lady that her husband or her boyfriend applied and got it, but his girlfriend came to the interview. Well, his girlfriend is not going to be in the shop, and she's not the license holder. So until you bring, I think we have 30 days to extend, something like that too. So it's making it harder on us. Plus we have the liquor license that they're coming, so we can smoke weed, you can drink 24 hours, and you can have those nightlight activities to 12 o'clock at night, so nobody talk about that. That they just approved and snuck that in, City Council approved those outdoor dinings. Community Board 4 had 10 p.m. The backyard, the rooftop, anywhere that you want to party, 10 o'clock. I don't care where it is. Now, it's 12 a.m., guys. So I want to see how all of you are going to control all this thing. Well, we got apartments on top of that. And I get videos, sad videos in my office where ladies are saying, my kids got to go to school. They're downstairs making all this noise. They're smoking weed and cigarette, and I can't even open my window in the summer. People actually crying for help. And the people we voted for agreed to 12 midnight. So we really need to, all the community boards need to get together and find out what is it that we can leave our community to make sure we have our quality of life like we used to have before.
Thank you, Chairperson. Ms. Thompson. So this is for updates from members. We'll have new business as the next agenda item if there are particular matters folks want to raise. Are there any more updates? Hearing no further updates, we move on to the next agenda item, which is other business. At the beginning of the meeting, Chairperson Baptiste of Community Board 9 had raised the point that I informed him would be handled under other business. So we'll begin with you. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the beginning of the meeting, you announced as part of the Borough Hall updates the launching of the commentary period for City of Yes economic development. And I think that it's really kind of striking when you said, you're talking about 18 sections over 644 pages of text. But yet we have 60 days to address these things. I think that especially for something that's as significant as that, I mean, we're talking about really, really big overhauls of the code, the building codes. We went through a process already that talked about zoning for carbon neutrality. Right after that, on the heels of that, now we're going into economic development. And right on the back of that, we're talking about housing. It's just a pace that I think is just too frantic. And it's really not, it's detrimental to the community's ability to actually look at these things and be able to provide intelligent critique of these. So one of the things that we are looking to hopefully get is some kind of a statement at some point. And I think we'll reach out, the community boards can do it in terms of expressing we need to slow this process down to really give people an opportunity to digest what's going on, figure out what's appropriate in terms of, we don't want to stand in the way of progress, but at the same time, we want to make sure that the community always has the right to and the ability to weigh in as necessary instead of things being done administratively and as of right by developers and businesses. So I think at some point we need to have some kind of a conversation. We would hope to have some kind of a statement saying that we need to slow this down and give more time for us to be able to appropriately address. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cerna had also indicated a desire to raise an other business matter.
Really bright light here. So what I'm going to bring up might strike a nerve, but I hope that folks are able to understand sort of like the macro implications of what I'm saying, and that is the grievance process for board members who feel unsafe at community board meetings, that feel that they cannot fully participate and or are shut out from expressing their views procedurally. I witnessed this recently where someone wanted to bring something up. They were shut out and said you had to wait for new business, and then during new business they were kicked out of the Zoom room where they were at and not allowed to come in. And so I'm not going to single out any single community board, but our office has received complaints from board members who are volunteering, are appointees, and in a board where presumably you want a diversity of opinions and voices because that's how democracy should function, and they come to us and say, I can't express myself freely because I don't feel safe. I've addressed my grievances to the board chair, to the district manager, I'm not getting a resolution. I'm told to reach out to the borough president's office and told that, boards are autonomous entities. I guess the question being from the council member, can the board president explore creating a grievance process that's separate? Because at this point, it extends to staff as well, where they don't feel they can go to a community board meeting, express themselves. And so we're asking council members to make appointees, and then these appointees saying, I'm not going to volunteer my time. I'm not going to go here. I don't feel safe. I don't feel like I can freely express myself. And so then what is the point of appointing folks? And so I'll leave it at that, and again say that we feel that we can all disagree that, or we can all agree that we're not going to agree on everything, right? But that board should be a place where folks can freely express themselves in a respectful manner, absorb the quorum, and essentially get their fair share of the board meeting time. So leave it at that.
And if I may ask for clarification, you're requesting that the Brooklyn Borough President devise a grievance process for
board members who feel that they cannot address their concerns to their district manager or to their board chair.
Received, and thank you, Mrs. Cerna. Ms. Thompson, you'd indicated a desire to talk on other business. Yes, please, so we can include it in the audio of the recording.
Hello. When I asked if we could speak on, I honestly forgot.
You wanted to speak on the point that Chairperson Camacho raised about liquor licenses and
Smoke
cannabis
shops.
licenses, but also the change in the law from outdoor dining at 10 p.m. within Community Board 4 to 12 midnight.
So, the one thing that he said that I wanted to ask him a question on was, who told you that you couldn't say no when they come to the community board asking if they can have, like a store or whatever? Like, who told you couldn't say no to that process when it comes to cannabis or the smoke shops?
Mr. Camacho, Chairperson.
You say no to them, but if you don't put nothing on the method of operation, they're gonna give you the hours they want, because we went through that already. I've been on the board for 35 years.
So, oh, no, I'm sorry, but you are,
If you come to the, let's say for instance, if you come and you are presenting, and there's a location, and we say, we can't say no to them, because in the campus, because they have the license. We're only voting on the location when it comes to campus.
and they said you can't say no to them.
You can't say that. You can't say no you can say no to the location, but not to them.
I believe for this correct, Chairperson Camacho, are you saying the Office of Cannabis Management has informed you that when a community board gives an opinion, they cannot say no to the issuance of the license, they can only say no to where the location.
We can't say no, they can't have that.
Well, yeah, to the license, because that's from the state. I just wanted clarification on you not being able to say no to the location or to the hours, or if it's 3 people here that want a store and it's like, oh, I can't say no because there's 2 other options. I was just trying to get clarification because all you said was we can't tell them no, and it's like you can't tell who no, and then who also told you that you can't tell them no? Because if you have hold on one second.
Mr. Chairperson Camacho, Ms. Thompson?
If you have like an overwhelming amount of cannabis stores, smoke shops, which are not supposed to sell cannabis. They're not supposed to unless they have been given authorization. Most of the smoke shops are illegal. They illegally sell cannabis. So when I went to our 73rd Precinct Community Council meeting, I was told by the commanding officer, that it is up to us, the community, and community board, city council members, hold on one second, to call them, and they will come out and they issue summons and they issue fines. And in our district, over by like Pickett Avenue, so far they have shut down, they said several. But they keep popping up. So it's kind of like you just have to be very proactive. So when you said you were instructed to say you can't say no, I just wanted clarity on you can't say no to who, because you're the community board. So if you don't want this in your community, you have every right to say no. So I wanted to speak to whoever told you you can't say no.
Chairperson Camacho.
To approve the location that they're gonna operate and give them their hours of operations, right? But we can't say no, outright no to that location. That's what we were told. And when we went through the course, through the cannabis course and the commissioner, I mentioned that. He said the hours operation for I'm talking about the cannabis now, what we vote on in the community board. Just like what that young lady said there. We vote, so you come to us. You tell us, I'm going to have on 1516, the only way we can say no is 1, if it's next to a church, X amount of square footage, or 2, if it's next to another one, that's X amount of square footage. But we can't say no to him operating the place as a cannabis.
Okay.
And then there's 3 people bidding for that same location. Correct? 3 people bidding for that same location. Thank you. See, it's really, and I went back and I told them when I was on Zoom, I spoke to the commissioner. He says it's 70 hours a week, and you can give them the 70 hours according to the time frame you want. No 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. It's 70 hours a week. Everybody that was on the Zoom meeting and everybody got that's what we were listening to.
So that was the state, it wasn't the city?
No,
I
it was
just want
the-
clarification.
No, it was the state. It was the state. It
okay.
wasn't the city, it was the
Okay.
state.
I just wanted to make sure there's no one from the city
No,
told
no,
you
it was the
couldn't say no.
state. It was
I'm
the
sorry.
state.
I was just
No,
like,
the canopy is the state, it's
I
not the
got
city.
you. No, I understand that. No, that I understand. I wanted to separate the cannabis, the smoke shops, because I thought her question was geared more towards the smoke shops and the cannabis because they illegally sell
No, because
weed.
they come to, the only thing that comes through the board is now the cannabis license.
Got you.
That's the only thing. I got 10. And that's what she was mentioning too. She had more. And the way they tell us to vote on it is not to vote on not giving them because they applied for the license and the state gave
Through
it to
the
them.
state and they give
Right.
it to them, yeah.
It's the location, so.
Okay. You want to answer?
Thank you, Ms. Thompson.
I have,
Thank
one,
you.
I have one more, but
yes,
I
please.
want her to follow up with him.
This is
though.
a follow-up, Ms. Lamont?
No, go ahead. It's the same. Yeah.
I just wanted to add, like, for the record, that I second what Edward said about community boards and having some kind of channel to hold them accountable. I understand that they're autonomous bodies, but I've been in many, many meetings where people are silenced, where there's racism happening, where meetings are dismissed, and there's no channel for them to get any kind of grievance, like, at all. So would really appreciate the Brooklyn Borough President's Office stepping up in that manner.
There has been a request for a statement second that would make that a potential resolution of the Brooklyn Borough Board to ask the Brooklyn Borough President's Office to do so. Because it is a second motion, it is properly before the Brooklyn Borough Board's office, so we will, we can do a roll call vote, or if there seems to be a consensus, let's do that. Does anyone object to adoption of the resolution? If we do, then we'll proceed to have a roll call vote. This would be, sure, the motion is, it is a resolution of the Brooklyn Borough Board that the Office of Brooklyn Borough President adopt a grievance process for board members who feel that they cannot address concerns about their ability to participate through the ordinary community board process. So this would be the question as to whether there should be a resolution of the Brooklyn Borough Board, because it's been a motion second, so it is properly to call. Sure.
We are a city agency, and we operate under our own board, and the chair is responsible for. The chair is responsible for maintaining, and if the chair is not doing what he's supposed to do, the board members can allocate and remove him from that position. I don't think that is the borough president's job to be babysitting 18 borough boards and 18 community boards. The grievance process should be in regards to the city charter, which states that we are a city agency and that the chairperson is responsible for the operation of the community. The borough president is HR for HR is for the community boards. If they want to create, then let them change the city charter with city council and indicate what they want. But as of them coming over and forcing or writing a resolution to reprimand board members when there is no process, no due process in that, and it shouldn't be, then the board members that are there, you have an executive board, just like we can get sued, they have the right to do their due process through the legal factor, just like anybody else do. Because when I have a grievance with a city council or any person, there's no procedure for us to go through the grievance procedure with them. So I don't think we're a city agency. And I hope that people don't tend to tell the borough president to go to each community board and run their board. But if they're doing a resolution, if you're making a resolution to reprimand board members when they're not giving them the right to talk, and the chair is the person that's in charge, he's responsible. He's voted in by his peers.
Mr. Chairperson Camacho, thank you. I take that as an objection to unanimous consent, and that you were also discussing, that's discussion of the motion. Traditionally, the proponent of the motion gets to speak, so Mr. Cerner, if you'd like to clarify, what is it that you were, the nature of the motion, again, I called the motion on whether there be a resolution of this body, a request, a formal request of this body to the Borough President's office to adopt such a procedure. Mr. Cerner.
So, to clarify, I have covered in previous role this entire borough as the representative of the former mayor, and I have seen almost every board in its operation. And so the call is not for the borough president to babysit the board, it's just, and in large part, most of the boards conduct their business in an equitable manner. But when the mechanisms are in place where you literally cannot do anything, you cannot get a committee appointment, you cannot vote the chair out, the district manager is ignoring your emails, and you're being silenced at community board meetings, what is the recourse? Resign from the board? And then again, I don't think that that's the message that as boards, and as a former board member myself, that I don't think that's the message we want to put out there, that if you're not part of the majority and of the concurring opinion, you should just stay shut or resign because, oh, well, majority rule. So I think that there is certain gaps in the system, and that's what the resolution is calling for us to explore it, let's discuss it, let's see what we can do for board members that don't feel that they have a legitimate, like a fair shake when they have a grievance.
So Ms. Lamont is the second proponent, and then I will turn it on to further discussion. I believe Chairperson Busereth wanted to have a point, followed by Chairperson Baptiste. So Ms. Lamont, as if you want to, as a proponent, sorry, yes.
Oh, I didn't have anything to add. I just think that no one is forcing anything upon board members or chairs, like just clarifying that we're not trying to infringe upon board rights. Rather, have a little bit more transparency. Like I mentioned, I've been in many meetings where there is no recourse for members who are on the board, not just members of the public. So this is just to explore what that can be.
Chairperson Busereth, followed by Chairperson Baptiste, followed by Chairperson Lohman.
Thanks. I think that theoretically this sounds like an important and good thing. I think it's practically it's not something that we should go for because boards and public bodies are about actions, right? So we can't develop policy around how people feel, right? If a board is doing a thing that it's not supposed to do, there's lots of ways to deal with that, including instead of publicly shaming them, the person should call, you can reach out to the media, you can have actions from the board, you can deny the board quorum, you can do all sorts of things to advocate for yourself and the boards being whatever you're saying they are. There's tons of ways for folks who are having problems with board chairs or district managers to take action on their own behalf without infringing on the rights and responsibilities of boards. When I started as a board member 10 years ago, I was very frustrated about the way the board functioned. Eventually, I became the chair. The board functions very differently now. So I think that folks have to persist through the challenges that they face, and that's how you gain new leadership.
Chairperson Baptiste, and thank you very much, Mr. Marshall. Community Board 9.
Mr. Chair, at this point, I rise to make a motion to table this until the December meeting.
Mr. Baptiste has made a motion to table this to the December meeting. I would point out that under the bylaws adopted at the Brooklyn Borough Board, he is making a motion that's recognized as Article 2, Section 9. Essentially, this matter has been put on the agenda for the first time, held over for consideration at the next meeting of the board, and he's making a motion to table. The motion to table having been seconded, it is a priority motion, so it is to be voted on ahead of the continued discussion. This is a motion to table this discussion to a meeting certain, the December meeting. Does any member object to tabling? If a member objects, then we can proceed to a roll call vote. Mrs. Cerna? Sure.
This right here is a process. This is a grievance is made. And if we want to table it to discuss, yes, let's have that discussion. But again, I have personally witnessed a motion where it was, a board member made a motion, it was seconded, and it was just, no, we're just not going to do that. And I don't see that as following Robert's Rule of Order. I don't see that as following a process. So I'm not objecting, I'm just contextualizing that I appreciate this because that's what should happen. So thank you.
Before I proceed, I would like to first note, does anyone object to tabling? There's an objection to tabling. It's a duly made motion with roll call vote. We could have discussion. But I want to know, is there an objection to tabling? Does any member object to tabling? Chairperson Witherspoon, you have your hand up.
Just help me out, sir.
Yes.
So I have a question.
Sure.
For the motion, the person that made the motion, Mr. Baptiste, and who seconded, what would be the reason to table it?
The proponent of the motion is Chairperson Baptiste. Yeah, you're to answer the reason for tabling. And this is the table, and I just want to pause everyone, because since there's some procedural things going on, it's my duty to make sure everyone's aware of what's going on. There was a motion, second to request formally through a board resolution, the Brooklyn Borough President's Office adopt a grievance process resolution. There's been discussion on that motion. Then there's now a motion to table that discussion to the December meeting. And this is what Chairperson Baptiste is about to discuss, answering Chairperson Witherspoon's question as to why this discussion should be tabled. Proceed, sir.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And the reason why I'm moving to table is because I'm not sure I'm clear in terms of what the intent is or even what the mechanism should be. I mean, is this for the borough president to just create a process that we don't have any input in? Should we design a process and vote on that to say, okay, fine, if there's a grievance? Even what the grievances are, I think it would be helpful to have some more context in terms of that. If there were specific examples of something that's going on or behaviors that are going on, so that way at least it provides more context to the motion so that way we can kind of figure out what's the best course of action going forward. So yeah, just because I don't know enough, and I'll claim that. I don't know enough, and I think at least if we give the time for the next meeting, it gives us some time to get some additional information so that way we can move forward in terms of if this is a resolution we like or if we think there's something more appropriate to address those kinds of matters. Thank you.
So, Chairperson Witherspoon, that's clarified. Do you have any further questions?
No, I appreciate that because it sort of gives the gentleman homework to do. So thank you. I think it was great.
So, before we got there, I'd asked whether anyone objected. Is there an objection to the motion to table to December?
I seconded. I would like to make a comment why
Sure.
I
Chairperson
seconded
Russell,
it
please
if you give me a chance to. Yes, we operate under our city charter. Yes, we operate under our bylaws. Yes, we operate under Robert Rules of Order. And now you're going to create another activity that we operate under the borough president's grievance procedures. Picture that. Thank you.
So, with that having been said, is there any objection to tabling? Any objection to tabling? Hearing no objection to tabling, just want to make sure, Chairperson Ian, are you objecting to tabling? I want to recognize you because I do see you have your hand up. I want to know, does it relate to the question as to whether to move the discussion to the December meeting? Is there an objection? Hearing no objection, by unanimous consent, the discussion of the proposed resolution is moved to a date certain, the December meeting. Before we got to that, Ms. Thompson had a second thing she wanted to say in terms of other business, so you could return, and then I'll recognize you, Chairperson Ian. Please.
Thank you for allowing me to say it, Chairperson. I'm so sorry. I should have just finished because I didn't know it was going to go like this. So mine's going to be quick. But I know when we started, you had spoke about the Say Yes amendment.
The City of
text
Yes,
amendment.
yes.
Yeah, City of Yes, sorry. So I just want to bring awareness to everyone here that that is very important. And we really need our community boards to understand what is going on because they come to you guys first. The developers come, and it will kind of take away you guys' power for them to come to you. It's rezoning, it's everything. So when you have these meetings, ask these tough questions. And also, they can wait for your answer. You can keep prolonging. Okay, I see you in another 30 days. I see you in another 30 days. Like, don't allow for them to rush you to give them an answer. Seek legal counsel, seek whoever, because it's unfortunate that now we have properties going up in our communities that are not affordable to the everyday people. And I love community boards, but a lot of you guys are to blame because I just say yes. A lot of them just say yes. And it's up to our office to go back and say, whoa, what is going on here? So please, please, you guys have all the power. You control that. If you tell them no, come back with something, you may be able to afford $100,000, something that is like in $100,000. Somebody makes $50,000, $60,000 with 3 kids. You have to think about everybody else. So this is very important. I don't know what is going on. I read some of it, and it's a little overwhelming. So as they come to you, as HPD come to you, require them to make sure your community is taken care of, because our kids, our grandkids, and our nieces that are growing up, they are who will be affected, not us, because we already live in. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairperson Ian, I wanted to recognize you, but does it relate to the matter that has been tabled to next meeting? In that case, we'll wait till next meeting, and you will be prioritized number 1 on that discussion. We'll resume then. Is there any other business that members of the Borough Board would like to raise? Please.
Hi, David Heimlich, Community
Second
Board
Vice Chair
1.
Heimlich, yes, of Community Board 1.
We have an average of 30 liquor licenses per month. Our SLA is extremely busy. We listen. Actually, I am not from the SLA, but I am an executive board member. We make recommendations because obviously Community Board 1 is the biggest growing community board, and there's a lot of developments, and obviously that counts with the bars, the restaurant, the night activity. And the SLA members spend a lot of time. Takes sometimes till 11, 12 at night, going through so many, listening. We recommend, we work with the board, these neighbors coming, neighbors complaining. I'm asking the Borough office is there a possibility to get us, board members, with the SLA, the state? We approve one thing and they approve something else. And I have many, many examples to go about it. There's a hotel with a pool open till 4 o'clock in the morning with music. And there's 160, 200 people at the SLA against the renewal of that pool. Plus, everybody denied the renewal. They get renewed. Why we, Community Board 1 members, are asking the SLA, would you please listen to us? We denied. There is a few cases that I have actually saw that people applied, went to the 500-foot hearing by the state before they even applied to Community Board 1. How would the state listen to a 500-foot hearing when we didn't even get the license, the application? I think we deserve at least that. Before you even start the 500-foot hearing, have you got a yes or no for Community Board 1? How can you make a hearing on 500 foot and we don't even know about it? We approved a liquor license. I'm only giving examples of a few of them, up to 12 o'clock, and they get up to 3 o'clock. Why? There's so many of those, and then once we approve till 12 o'clock, and they get till 2 o'clock, and then there's so many of those. Before you change our recommendation, how about give us opportunity to be there at least, and let's talk. Again, I'm not complaining. They also work very hard on approving those licenses, but I do believe that I would ask the Borough Hall to ask the SLA, we Community Board 1, that we're giving them a lot of business. We are approving 99% of them. But those that we deny because we're not comfortable, or we have a problem with the neighbors, or we have a problem with ours, I think they should listen to us.
Second Vice Chair Heimlich, just to clarify, and this is similar to Chairperson Camacho of Community Boards 4's request that this office reach out to DCP. Are you asking us to reach out to the Office of Brooklyn Borough President, to reach out to the New York State Liquor Authority to ask them to convene a meeting
Yes,
for community boards to discuss
we want
denials?
to express our concerns we have, and there's a lot of the 500 foot hearing before we even, they are having hearings before we even started. We don't even know what this is all about, and they are approving already. So why are we making the SLA to begin with?
We have received that request. It's noted, and we'll follow up with you on
Yeah,
that.
we would like to have a meeting, the SLA, with the state liquor authority.
Yes, Second Vice Chair
Thank you so
Heimlich.
much.
Is there any other business from other members? Chairperson Lohman.
I just would like to second what first David said, because in Community Board 5, we've reached out to the SLA because there's people in our district where we've gone to the businesses and they're selling liquor and beer and stuff, and they have not gotten approval to do so. And we adopted a resolution where new businesses, they have to close after 2 a.m. But from what we were told, the old businesses can stay open to 4 a.m. to sell liquor, beer, and some of them, they just don't abide by the rule and regulations. So I second what David is saying by us having SLA come here and we can ask them some questions and they can understand how we are representing the community, and we hear all the backlash.
Your request, second, is received. We've noted that, and we'll advise the Borough President that the request has been seconded. Chairperson Camacho.
And we're not telling them that they can't do it. We're telling them they're giving the method of operations and the time frame, because what happens in my district is if we say 12, this guy got 2. So when he finished drinking his beer at 12 midnight, he going to the 2. Then after 2 finished, guess what? The guy that got 4 going to his 4. So we wanted something across the board where PD can control the outside and the quality of life issues that's going on. We're not saying that we don't want them to party, because I know the mayor's all about the party. We're not saying he can't party, but we tell him there's a time when you got to stop partying. We want to go to sleep, and we have a quality of life too. It's different if we go in front of his house and do it, but we're not doing it in front of the house because he got no liquor in front of his house. So what I'm saying is the method of operations respect the wishes of the community board. If we go through all that time and tell you 12, why is the liquor authority saying and giving them the hour? Then why are we wasting our time? Then y'all guys want to create, y'all want to reprimand board members, write them up, grievances, procedures, when we volunteer. And when we make rules and regs, the city look at us and say, no, forget about it. We need teeth too. This community board needs teeth. All our community board need teeth. We're getting sick and tired of not having teeth. When city agencies don't come to our meeting, when the liquor authority don't come, so we want to support the borough president to support us to make sure that we have teeth, because together we can eat.
Thank you very much, Chairperson Camacho. Is there any other, and I also want to note for the record, we will reflect that in the request that Community Board 4 also joined and emphasized the point of the request that the Office of Brooklyn Borough President convene a meeting with the State Liquor Authority to discuss Community Board concerns. Is there any other business before that Community Board members are wanting to raise? Hearing no other business. Last thing to note is that the next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, December 5th, 2023. That is Tuesday, December 5th, 2023. And upon that, the November 2023 Borough Board meeting is adjourned.